Ambassador Velthus had waited for this moment his entire life. For 300 years, the Galactic Federation had watched the small blue planet called Earth. They had seen the humans discover fire. They had watched them build cities. They had observed their first rockets reaching for the stars. And now, finally, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel. The Marani ambassador stood at the viewing window of his diplomatic vessel. The Harmony's light. His pale blue skin glowed softly in the dim light of the bridge. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he watched the empty space before him. Soon, the humans would arrive. Soon, a new species would join the great family of the galaxy. Ambassador, his aide called out. We are detecting an energy signature. The humans are coming through the jump gate. Velthus felt his 3 hearts beat faster with excitement. He had studied humans for decades. He knew their music, their art, their literature. He found them fascinating. They were so young, so full of energy and creativity. He could not wait to welcome them. The jump gate flashed with brilliant white light. A ship emerged from the other side. Velthus stopped breathing. The vessel that came through was not what he expected. Every new civilization in the galaxy built small, simple ships for their first journey to the stars. They were vessels of exploration and hope. They were fragile things, barely able to survive the journey. This was not that kind of ship. The human vessel was massive. It was larger than any warship the Federation had ever built. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered with heavy armor plating. Velthus could see weapons everywhere. Large cannons lined the sides of the ship. Missile tubes dotted its surface. The front of the vessel was shaped like a blade, designed to cut through anything in its path. By the ancestors, whispered his aide. What is that thing? Velthus could not answer. His translator device was already analyzing the markings on the ship's hull. The name appeared on his screen, Use Indomitable. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Park Do-hyun stood with his hands behind his back. He was a tall man with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had served in the United Earth military for 20 years. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before humanity had reached for the stars. Now he commanded humanity's first interstellar warship. Report, he said calmly. Lieutenant Yuna Kim looked up from her communications console. She was young, barely 30, but she was the best communications officer in the fleet. Her fingers moved quickly across her controls as she analyzed the incoming signals. Sir, I am detecting 1 vessel. It appears to be unarmed. She paused, checking her readings again. Completely unarmed, Captain. No weapons of any kind. Navigation Officer Jiho Choi turned in his chair. He was a thin man with glasses and a nervous habit of tapping his fingers. The ship is beautiful, Captain. Look at those curves. That design. It is like a work of art. Do-hyun looked at the alien vessel on the main screen. Jiho was right. The Harmony's light was elegant and graceful. It looked like it was designed to dance among the stars. His own ship, by comparison, looked like it was designed to destroy everything in its path, because it was. They are sending a transmission, Yuna announced. Should I play it? Do-hyun nodded. The bridge filled with a soft, musical voice. The universal translator worked quickly, converting the alien language into words they could understand. Greetings, travelers from Earth. We are the Galactic Federation. We have watched your species grow and develop for many centuries. We are filled with joy at your arrival. We come in peace and friendship. We welcome you to the stars. The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Security Chief Tai Ho-shin was the first to speak. He was a big man with broad shoulders and a scar across his chin from an old battle. They are welcoming us. They have no weapons. They are not afraid of us at all. Chief Science Officer Haran Moon stepped forward. She was a quiet woman who preferred books to people, but she was brilliant. "Captain, I have been studying their ship. Their technology is far more advanced than ours. Their engines, their shields, their power systems. They could have built weapons that would destroy us easily. But they chose not to. Why?" asked Oyeon. Heron shook her head slowly. "I do not know. Perhaps they have never needed weapons." The idea seemed impossible to everyone on the bridge. Humanity had always needed weapons. From the first sharp stone to the nuclear missiles that had nearly destroyed Earth, weapons had been a part of human existence. The idea of a civilization without war was like imagining a world without air. Yuna turned to the captain. "Sir, what should I say to them?" Dahyun thought carefully. He looked at his ship, at his crew, at the weapons that surrounded them. They had built the Indomitable because they were afraid. Afraid of what might be waiting for them in the darkness of space. Afraid of enemies they had never met. Afraid of being destroyed before they could defend themselves. But these aliens did not seem to be enemies. They seemed kind. "Tell them we come in peace," Doyun said finally. "Tell them we are honored by their welcome. And tell them we wish to meet with them." On the Harmony's light, Ambassador Velthus received a human response. He felt relief wash over him. The humans were willing to talk. Despite their terrifying ship, they wanted peace. But as he prepared to respond, his aide approached him with a worried expression. "Ambassador, I have completed my analysis of the human vessel. Their weapons, I have never seen anything like them. Their main cannons could destroy a small moon. Their missiles carry nuclear warheads. They have something called a plasma cannon that could melt through any shield we possess." Velthus felt a chill run through his body. They built all of this for their first journey to the stars. "Yes, Ambassador. These humans, they built a warship. Not an exploration vessel. A warship." Velthus looked at the dark shape of the Indomitable on his screen. He had studied humans for so long. He knew their art and their music. But now he realized there was something about them he had not understood. These creatures came from a world of war. They had learned to survive by fighting. Every step of their evolution had been a battle. And when they finally reached for the stars, they did not come with open arms. They came with weapons. What had happened to these people? Velthus wondered, to make them so afraid of the universe? He would need to find out. Because if humanity could not learn to trust the galaxy, their weapons might one day become a problem for everyone. "Send a response," Velthus said quietly. "Tell them we agree to meet. And tell them they have nothing to fear from us." He hoped it would be enough. He hoped humanity could learn that not everything in the darkness wanted to hurt them. But looking at their massive warship, he was not sure they would believe him. The Federation Council Chamber was the largest building on the Marani homeworld. It was a beautiful structure made of crystal and light. Representatives from 100 different species gathered there to discuss matters of peace and cooperation. In 10,000 years, they had never discussed war. Until now. Ambassador Velthus stood before the council, projecting images of the human warship onto the massive display screen. The representatives gasped and whispered among themselves. Many had never seen weapons before. They did not even understand what they were looking at. "These devices," Velthus explained, pointing to the cannons, "are designed to destroy other ships. These missiles carry explosives that could level entire cities. And this," he paused at the image of the plasma cannon, "could burn through any defense we possess." Councillor Thren rose from his seat. He was a tall, insect-like creature with clicking mandibles and compound eyes. His species, the Varathi, were known for their caution. "This is unacceptable," he declared. "These humans are clearly warmongers. They come to us with weapons of destruction. We must prepare our defenses immediately." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Fear was an emotion the Federation rarely felt, but they felt it now. High Elder Mirren raised a single tendril for silence. She was ancient, even by Mirani standards. Her body was small and frail, but her mind was sharp. She had led the Federation for 300 years with wisdom and patience. "We must not act from fear," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "We have seen this before. Young species often feel afraid when they first leave their world. They do not know what waits for them in the darkness. Is it not natural that they would seek to protect themselves?" Counselor Thren clicked his mandibles in frustration. "Protect themselves from what? We have done nothing to threaten them." "They do not know that," Mirren replied. "They do not know us. All they know is their own history. And from what I understand, that history has been difficult." Velthus nodded. "High Elder is correct. I have studied humans for many decades. Their world has known war since the beginning of their existence. They have fought each other for land, for resources, for ideas. They have nearly destroyed themselves many times. Then they are dangerous," Thren insisted. "All the more reason to prepare defenses." Mirren shook her head slowly. "Or perhaps they are wounded. Perhaps they need understanding, not fear. Let us not judge them by their ship, Counselor. Let us judge them by their actions. Ambassador Velthus, I want you to meet with these humans. Learn who they truly are. And then we shall decide what to do." Far away, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Do-Hyun called a meeting of his senior officers. They gathered in the briefing room, sitting around a long metal table covered with data screens and star charts. Harren Moon presented her findings first. "I have analyzed all available data on the Federation. They appear to control over 200 star systems. Their technology is far superior to ours. Their ships are faster, their communications are better, and their medical science is centuries ahead." Ji-Ho Choi leaned forward with interest. "What about their military?" Harren hesitated. "That is the strange part. They do not appear to have one." Silence fell over the room. Tae Ho Shin crossed his arms. "That is impossible. How can a civilization of that size have no military? Their records show no wars for over 10,000 years, Harren continued. They have police forces for internal matters, but no armies, no warships, no weapons of any kind. They have simply never needed them. Lieutenant Yuna Kim shook her head in disbelief. How is that possible? How can so many different species live together without fighting? Perhaps they are different from us, Do-Hyun said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Perhaps violence is not part of their nature the way it is part of ours. The thought made everyone uncomfortable. Humanity had always believed that war was inevitable. It was built into their genes, their history, their very identity. The idea that other species might not share this burden was difficult to accept. Chief Engineer Sung-Woo Kang spoke up. He was a practical man who preferred machines to philosophy. Captain, I have been examining their ship from a distance. Their power systems are incredible. They have solved problems we have been working on for centuries. If we could learn from them, we need to be careful, Tae-Ho interrupted. We do not know these creatures. They might seem peaceful now, but what if that changes? What if they decide they do not want us in their space? Do-Hyun nodded slowly. You are right to be cautious. But consider this. They have technology that could destroy us easily. If they wanted us dead, we would already be dead. Instead, they are sending messages of welcome. They want to talk. Yuna pulled up the latest message from Ambassador Velthus. He is proposing a meeting on neutral ground. A small moon between our positions. No weapons, no military presence. Just talking. It could be a trap, Tae-Ho said. It could be an opportunity, Do-Hyun replied. We came here to make contact with alien life. We came here hoping to find friends among the stars. Now we have found them. Are we really going to let fear stop us? The question hung in the air. For all their weapons, for all their military training, the crew of the Indomitable had never actually wanted war. They had built their ship to survive, not to conquer. They had armed themselves because they were afraid, not because they were cruel. Weapons Officer Yoonji Beek had been silent throughout the meeting. She was a serious woman who rarely smiled. Her job was to manage the most destructive weapons humanity had ever created. She knew better than anyone what those weapons could do. "Captain," she said, "I joined the military because I wanted to protect people, not because I wanted to hurt anyone. If these aliens are truly peaceful, if they really do not want to fight, then maybe we can learn something from them. Maybe we can become something better than what we have always been." Do-hyun looked at his crew. These were good people, strong people. They had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. And now they had a chance to do something more important than fight. They had a chance to make peace. "Send a message to Ambassador Velthus," Do-hyun decided. "Tell him we agree to meet. Tell him we will bring only a small delegation. No weapons, no military display. Just people who want to talk." Yuna smiled as she typed the message. "Yes, Captain." In his quarters that night, Do-hyun stood by the window and looked out at the alien stars. His whole life had been about war. He had lost friends in battle. He had taken lives to protect others. He had seen the worst of humanity. But maybe, just maybe, the universe was offering him something different. Maybe there was a chance for peace. He hoped he was brave enough to take it. On the Harmony's light, Ambassador Velthus received a human response. They had agreed to meet. They had promised to leave their weapons behind. For the first time since the humans arrived, Velthus felt hope. Perhaps these strange, violent creatures could learn to trust. Perhaps they could be healed. He would do everything in his power to help them try. The small moon had no name. It floated in the darkness between stars, forgotten by time. But on this day, it became the most important place in the galaxy. A clear dome had been built on the moon's surface. Inside, plants from a dozen worlds grew in carefully arranged gardens. Soft light filled the space. It was designed to feel safe and welcoming, a neutral place where two very different species could meet. Ambassador Velthus arrived first with his delegation of 5 Morani diplomats. They wore flowing robes of white and silver. They carried no weapons, no guards, nothing that could be seen as threatening. This was how the Federation had always done things. Trust first, questions later. The human shuttle landed a few minutes later. Velthus watched as the doors opened and the humans stepped out. Captain Do-hyun came first. He wore his military uniform, but he had left his weapons on the ship as promised. Behind him came Lieutenant Min Ji-han, his translator and diplomat. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Last came Security Chief Taiho Shin. He had argued against coming unarmed, but Do-hyun had insisted. Velthus stepped forward and performed the traditional Morani greeting, touching his forehead with both hands. "Welcome, travelers from Earth. I am Ambassador Velthus. We are honored by your presence." Minji translated quickly. Then she helped Do-hyun with the proper response. He copied the gesture awkwardly. "Thank you for having us. We are honored to be here." They sat together on soft cushions arranged in a circle. Food and drink from both worlds had been prepared. The atmosphere was warm and friendly. But beneath the surface, tension remained. Velthus began with small talk. He asked about Earth, about human culture, about their journey through space. Minji answered many questions, sharing stories of humanity's achievements. She spoke of their art, their music, their dreams of exploring the stars. But Velthus could not ignore the questions that truly mattered. After an hour of pleasant conversation, He finally asked what he needed to know. Captain Doyen, I must ask you something directly. I hope you will not be offended. Doyen nodded. Please, ask anything. Velthus took a deep breath. Your ship. It is unlike anything we have ever seen. It is covered with weapons. Weapons designed to destroy on a scale we cannot imagine. When your species first reached the stars, you did not build a vessel of exploration. You built a vessel of war. He paused, his four eyes fixed on Doyen's face. Why? The question hung in the air like a weight. Minji looked at Doyen, waiting for his response. Taiho shifted uncomfortably on his cushion. Doyen was silent for a long moment. He could have lied. He could have made excuses. He could have said it was for defense, for protection, for safety. All of those things would have been partly true. But looking at Velthus, at his kind eyes and open expression, Doyen felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt like he could tell the truth. Because we had no choice, he said simply. Velthus tilted his head. I do not understand. Doyen looked down at his hands. Ambassador, do you know what Earth's history looks like? Do you know what we have done to ourselves? Velthus nodded slowly. I have studied your species. I know you have experienced conflicts. But surely, not conflicts, Doyen interrupted. Wars, endless, brutal wars. We have fought over land, over water, over food. We have killed each other for our beliefs, for our pride, for things that do not even matter anymore. His voice was heavy with pain. We invented weapons to kill more efficiently. We built bombs that could destroy entire cities. We nearly wiped ourselves out, not once, but many times. Minji translated his words, her voice trembling. The Marani delegation sat in stunned silence. Doyen continued. When we finally developed the technology to reach the stars, we were afraid. We did not know what was out there. We did not know if the universe would be kind or cruel. All we knew was our own history. All we knew was that survival meant being ready to fight. He looked up at Velthus. We built a warship because that is how we learned to survive. Not against aliens, against ourselves. We were so used to fighting that we could not imagine any other way. Velthus sat in silence, processing what he had heard. Around him, his fellow diplomats were visibly moved. Some had tears forming in their eyes. Others simply stared at the humans with expressions of deep sadness. Your species, Velthus said finally, his voice barely a whisper, has endured horrors we cannot imagine. Your entire existence has been a battle for survival. Yes, Doyen admitted. And we are ashamed of it. We are ashamed of what we have done to each other. But we are also proud, in a strange way. Because despite everything, despite all the wars and the suffering, we are still here. We survived. And we kept reaching for the stars. Velthus did something that surprised everyone. He reached out and took Doyen's hand in his own. His skin was cool and soft, but his grip was firm. Captain Doyen, I want you to understand something. The Federation has known peace for 10,000 years. We have forgotten what war is. We look at your weapons and we feel fear. But now, hearing your story, I do not feel fear anymore. What do you feel? Doyen asked. Velthus's four eyes glistened with moisture. I feel sorrow. I feel sorrow for everything your people have suffered. And I feel admiration. Because you are still here. You are still trying. You are still reaching for something better. Tears began to roll down his pale blue cheeks. The other Marani wept as well. Even Taiho, who had been so suspicious, felt a lump forming in his throat. We came here thinking you were dangerous, Velthus continued. We thought your weapons meant you wanted to destroy. But now I understand. Your weapons are not a threat. They are a scar. They are the mark of everything you have survived. Minji was crying as she translated. She had never felt so proud to be human, and so sad at the same time. Do-hyun squeezed Velthus's hand. "We do not want to fight anymore. We are tired of war. We came to the stars hoping to find something different, hoping to find peace." Velthus smiled through his tears. "Then you have found it, Captain. The Federation welcomes you, not as potential enemies, but as friends. We will help you heal. We will show you that the universe does not have to be a battlefield." For the first time in his life, Do-hyun felt something he had never truly believed in. Hope. Real. Genuine hope that humanity could become something better than they had been. The meeting continued for many more hours. Stories were shared. Promises were made. By the time the humans returned to their shuttle, something had changed. The fear was gone. In its place was the beginning of understanding. On the Indomitable, Do-hyun stood before his crew and told them what had happened. He told them about Velthus's tears. He told them about the Federation's offer of friendship. "We have a chance," he said. "A chance to be more than warriors. A chance to be part of something greater than ourselves. Let us not waste it." The crew cheered. For the first time since leaving Earth, they felt like they had truly arrived among the stars. But the universe was not done with them yet. Far across the galaxy, in the empty darkness between stars, something ancient was waking up. Something hungry. Something that had not fed in 1,000 years. And it was headed toward Federation space. 3 days had passed since the meeting on the moon. 3 days of hope and new beginnings. The Indomitable remained in Federation space as discussions continued about humanity joining the galactic community. Scientists from both sides were already sharing knowledge. Cultural exchanges had begun. Everything seemed to be moving toward a bright future. Then the alarm started. On the Federation homeworld, warning signals echoed through every city. Citizens looked up at the sky with confusion. They had not heard such alarms in thousands of years. Many did not even know what they meant. In the council chamber, Councillor Thren was the first to receive the report. His compound eyes widened as he read the data. His clicking mandibles fell silent. "By the ancestors," he whispered. "It cannot be." High Elder Mirren approached him. "What is it, Counselor? What has happened?" Thren turned to face her, and for the first time in his long life, he looked truly afraid. "The Devourers. They have returned." The word spread through the chamber like a disease. The Devourers. The oldest nightmare of the galaxy. A mindless swarm of creatures that traveled between stars, consuming everything in their path. Planets, moons, ships, nothing was safe from their hunger. They had last appeared 1,000 years ago, attacking a distant colony before disappearing back into the void. The Federation had hoped they were gone forever. They had been wrong. Ambassador Velthus rushed to the communication center. He needed to warn the humans. He needed to explain what was coming. On the Indomitable, Captain Do-hyun received the message with growing concern. Velthus appeared on screen, his normally calm face twisted with fear. "Captain, you must leave Federation space immediately. A great danger is approaching. The Devour swarm creatures beyond counting. They are heading toward our homeworld. You and your crew must escape while you can." Do-hyun frowned. "Tell me more about these creatures." Velthus explained everything. The Devourers were not a civilization. They had no intelligence, no culture, no ability to communicate. They were simply hunger given form. Billions of creatures moving as one, consuming everything in their path. They could not be reasoned with. They could not be stopped. "How did your people survive them before?" Do-hyun asked. Velthus looked down. "We did not fight them, Captain. We ran. We evacuated our colonies and let them pass. Eventually, they moved on to other parts of the galaxy. It was the only option. We have no weapons to fight them. The words hit Do-Yun like a punch to the chest. The Federation, with all their advanced technology, with all their knowledge, had no way to defend themselves. They had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to fight. And now something was coming to destroy them. Do-Yun made his decision instantly. We are not leaving. Velthus's 4 eyes widened. Captain, you do not understand. The swarm numbers in the millions, perhaps billions. Your one ship cannot possibly. Then we will get more ships. Do-Yun turned to his crew. Lieutenant Yuna, send an emergency message back to Earth. Tell them what is happening. Tell them to send every ship that can make the journey. Yuna's fingers flew across her console. Yes, Captain. Chief Engineer Sun Wukong stepped forward. Captain, even with reinforcements, the numbers Velthus describes are beyond anything we have faced before. I know, Do-Yun replied. But the Federation cannot fight. They have no weapons, no training, no experience with war. If we do not help them, they will be destroyed. Taihoshin nodded slowly. Then we fight. That is what we were made for. Within hours, the jump gate flashed twice. 2 more human warships emerged from the light. The U's Defiance, commanded by Captain Nara Yu, and the U's Last Hope, under Captain Jung-Ho Lee. They had been following the Indomitable as backup, waiting on the other side of the gate just in case something went wrong. Do-Yun contacted both captains and explained the situation. Neither hesitated. We came here to protect humanity, Captain Nara said. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with determination. If these Federation people are going to be our friends, then protecting them means protecting humanity's future. Captain Jung-Ho agreed. We have been preparing for war our entire lives. Time to put that preparation to use. The 3 human warships moved into formation. They were small compared to the size of Federation space. They were tiny compared to the swarm that was coming. But they were the only hope anyone had in the Federation Council chamber. Councillor Thren was arguing for evacuation. We must abandon the homeworld. We must save who we can and flee to the outer colonies. And then what? High Elder Marin asked. The swarm will follow. They always follow. We cannot run forever, Counselor. Then what do you suggest? We have no weapons. We have no army. We have nothing. Captain Do-Yun's voice came through the communication system. You have us. Every head in the chamber turned to the display screen. Do-Yun stood on his bridge, flanked by his officers. Behind him, the crew worked at their stations with focused intensity. We have spent our entire existence preparing for threats, Do-Yun continued. We have built weapons because we feared the darkness. We have trained for war because we never knew when it would come. Let us do what we were made to do. Councillor Thren clicked his mandibles nervously. You have 3 ships against a swarm of millions. It is suicide. Do-Yun smiled grimly. Humanity has always been good at surviving the impossible. Chief Engineer Sunwoo was already working with Federation engineers through a video link. They were adapting Federation shield technology to work with human weapons. It was improvised, dangerous work, but there was no time for proper testing. Weapons Officer Yoonji Beek ran simulation after simulation. She calculated firing patterns, targeting priorities, ammunition consumption. The numbers were not good. They would run out of weapons long before the swarm ran out of creatures. But Yoonji did not stop working. She would find a way. She always did. Minji Han stood beside Do-Yun on the bridge. Her role as translator had become something more. She was now a bridge between 2 species facing extinction together. Captain, she said quietly, I have been receiving messages from across Federation space. Ships are coming. Not warships, they have none, but transport vessels, science ships, anything that can fly. They want to help. Da-hun raised an eyebrow. How can unarmed ships help in a battle? Minji smiled softly. They want to evacuate civilians. They want to rescue survivors. They say, she paused, reading the message again. They say that if the humans can fight for them, the least they can do is save as many lives as possible. Da-hin felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, perhaps, or gratitude. These people they had just met, these aliens who had been afraid of human weapons, were now standing beside them, not as warriors, but as allies. On the view screen, the first sensor readings of the swarm appeared. It was a dark cloud stretching across light years. Billions of creatures moving together like a single hungry organism. Harren Moon looked up from her console, her face pale. Captain, the swarm will reach us in 6 hours. Do-hyun nodded slowly. He looked at his crew, at their determined faces, at the fear they refused to show. Then we have 6 hours to prepare, he said. Let us make them count. The Indomitable, the Defiance, and the Last Hope moved into position. Behind them, the first Federation evacuation ships were already launching from the homeworld. Above them, the stars seemed to grow darker as the swarm approached. The battle for survival was about to begin, and humanity would face it the same way they had faced everything else together. The swarm arrived like a wave of darkness. Billions of creatures poured out of the void, blocking out the stars themselves. Each individual was the size of a small ship, with razor-sharp claws and armored skin that had evolved to survive the cold of space. They moved without thought, without mercy, driven only by an endless hunger. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched them come. His heart was beating fast, but his voice was steady. All ships, this is Captain Park Do-hyun. Hold your positions until they enter weapons range. We fire together. We fight together. And no matter what happens today, know that I am proud to serve beside you. Across the communication channel, Captain Nara Yu of the Defiance responded. We are ready, Captain. Let them come. Captain Jun-ho Lee of the Last Hope added, for Earth, for the Federation, for everyone counting on us. The swarm closed the distance quickly. They felt no fear. They knew no strategy. They simply surged forward, a mindless tide of destruction. Do-hyu raised his hand. All weapons fire! The human warships erupted with violence. Railguns fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds, tearing through the first wave of creatures. Missile tubes launched nuclear warheads that exploded in brilliant flashes, vaporizing thousands of enemies at once. Plasma cannons carved burning lines through the swarm, cutting the darkness with streams of superheated energy. The creatures died by the millions. But there were always more coming. On the Indomitable, the crew worked with desperate efficiency. Yoonji Beek directed the weapon systems with cold precision, targeting the largest clusters, making every shot count. Sun Wukang pushed the engines and shields to their limits, routing power wherever it was needed most. Yoona Kim coordinated communications between all 3 ships, keeping them fighting as one unit. The battle raged for hours. The humans had never faced anything like this. The creatures just kept coming, wave after wave, filling space with their numbers. For every 1,000 that died, 10,000 more took their place. The Last Hope was the first to fall. Captain Jun-ho Lee saw the breach in his hull before anyone else. The creatures had broken through the lower decks. They were tearing his ship apart from the inside. Captain Do-hyun. Jun-ho's voice came through the calm despite the chaos. We have been boarded. We cannot hold them. Do-hyun's heart sank. Jun-ho, get your crew to the escape pods. Evacuate now. There is no time. The creatures are too fast. A pause. An explosion somewhere in the background. Captain, it has been an honor. I am going to set the reactor to overload. When I explode, aim everything you have at the center of the blast. The explosion should clear a path. John-Ho, tell the Federation we were proud to fight for them. Tell Earth we did our duty. The last hope turned toward the thickest part of the swarm. Its engines flared one final time as it drove deep into the heart of the enemy. Then, with a flash brighter than any star, it was gone. The explosion tore a hole through the swarm. Thousands of creatures burned in an instant. The Indomitable and Defiance poured fire into the gap, destroying everything in their path. But the swarm reformed. The gap closed, and the battle continued. 30 hours in, the Defiance was crippled. Captain Nara Yu surveyed her damaged bridge. Half her crew was dead. Her weapons were running low. Her engines were failing. Captain Do-Yun, she said, her voice tired but determined. My ship is done. We cannot fight anymore. Do-Hyun felt tears in his eyes. Nara, please. Get your people out. Use the escape pods. We can. There is no time, she interrupted, echoing Junho's words. But I can still do something. The swarm has a central hive ship. It is not commanding them. They are too mindless for that, but it is producing more creatures. If I can destroy it, I can stop them from growing their numbers. Do-Hyun saw the hive ship on his tactical display. It was enormous, the size of a small moon, pulsing with awful life. Nara, that is suicide. She smiled through the screen. I know, but it is not pointless suicide. It is sacrifice. There is a difference, Captain. She paused. Take care of my crew. The ones who made it to the pods. Tell them their captain was proud of them. The Defiance accelerated toward the hive ship. Nara's remaining crews stayed at their posts, firing every weapon they had left. The swarm tried to stop them, but the dying ship would not be turned away. The Defiance struck the hive ship at full speed. Its reactor core detonated on impact. The explosion was so massive that it lit up the entire battlefield. When the light faded, the hive ship was gone. And with it, millions of unborn creatures. The swarm screamed. Not with voices. They had none but with movement. They began to thrash and spin, confused by the loss of their breeding ground. Their attack became uncoordinated, chaotic, and the Indomitable kept fighting. 72 hours. That was how long the battle lasted. 72 hours of constant combat, of endless waves, of fire and death and determination. When it was finally over, the swarm was broken. Not destroyed. There were still creatures scattered across the system, but broken. They fled into the void, retreating to wherever monsters went to die. The Indomitable drifted alone in a sea of debris. Its hull was scarred and burned. Its weapons were empty. Half the crew was injured. Many were dead. Captain Do-Hyun lay on the bridge floor, bleeding from a wound in his side. Around him, the surviving crew worked desperately to keep the ship alive. Yuna, he croaked. Status. Lieutenant Yuna Kim looked down at him, tears streaming down her face. We did it, Captain. The swarm is gone. The homeworld is safe. Do-Hyun tried to smile, but the pain was too much. Casualties? Aaron Moon answered, her voice hollow. The last hope is destroyed. All hands lost except for 37 who made it to escape pods. The Defiance is destroyed. Captain Nara and most of her crew are gone. 62 survived. Our own casualties are still being counted. But it is bad, Captain. Very bad. So many dead. So many lives lost. Do-Hyun closed his eyes and felt the weight of it pressing down on him. Then he heard something through the static of the communication system. A voice. Many voices. Human vessels, this is the Federation Rescue Fleet. We are approaching your position. Medical ships are on the way. Hold on. We are coming. The view screen flickered to life, showing hundreds of Federation ships emerging from jump space. Not warships, they had none but every vessel that could fly. Science ships, cargo ships, passenger liners. All of them had come to help. Ambassador Velthus appeared on the screen, his face filled with emotion. Captain Doyen, you saved us. You saved us all. Doyen managed a weak laugh. We lost 2 ships. Hundreds of people. I am not sure we saved anyone. Velthus shook his head firmly. You gave everything you had to protect people you had only just met. You fought against impossible odds. You sacrificed your friends, your crew, your own safety for strangers. Captain, do you understand what that means to us? Do-hyun did not answer. He was too tired. Vel. This continued. For 10,000 years, we have not known war. We forgot what courage looks like. We forgot what sacrifice means. Today, you reminded us. Today, you showed us what it truly means to protect others. The Federation ships reached the Indomitable. Medical teams began transporting the wounded. Engineers started repairs. The survivors of the Last Hope and the Defiance were rescued from their escape pods. As Do-hyun was carried to a medical shuttle, he passed through a corridor lined with Federation crew members. Morani, variety, and species he did not recognize. They stood in silence as he passed. And then, one by one, they began to bow, a gesture of respect, a gesture of gratitude. 3 months later, a monument was unveiled on the Federation homeworld. It stood in the center of the capital city, visible from every direction. The monument showed 3 human warships, carved from black stone, flying together against a wave of darkness. Beneath it, an inscription had been carved in 100 different languages. They came with weapons of war. They left as guardians of peace. Captain Do-hyun attended the ceremony, still recovering from his wounds. Beside him stood Yuna, Heron, Taiha, Sunwoo, and Yoonji, the survivors of the Indomitable's bridge crew. Minji stood nearby, translating the speeches for the human delegation. High Elder Mirren addressed the crowd. Today, we honor those who gave their lives for us. Captain Nara Yu of the Defiance, Captain Junho Lee of the Last Hope, and hundreds of human soldiers who died defending a world that was not their own. She turned to look at Do-hyun. When the humans first arrived, we were afraid of them. We saw their weapons and we thought they were dangerous. But we were wrong. Those weapons were not built for conquest. They were built by a species that had learned, through terrible suffering, that survival sometimes requires sacrifice. She paused, her ancient eyes glistening. The humans taught us something we had forgotten. They taught us that true peace is not the absence of war. True peace is having friends who will fight for you when darkness comes. The crowd erupted in applause. Federation citizens of every species cheered for the humans who had saved them. Do-hyun stood quietly, thinking of all the friends he had lost. Junho, Nara, so many others. They had come to the stars looking for peace, and they had found it. But the cost had been high. Still, as he looked at the monument, at the grateful faces around him, he knew they had made the right choice. Humanity had proven that they were more than warriors. They were protectors.